Hello and welcome to another video by Landcycle. In this video I'm going to show you how to set up the print system. That means that you can start to print letters directly from the system. Now there's no obligation or necessity for you to do that, but if you do set up the print system and create your own templates and content, then when you identify properties that you want to write to, you can quite simply click, and they will get letters. Add them to your database and then send them a letter and they'll get letters automatically. Now there is obviously a charge for sending letters, the price of which you'll find here and in the information and price list. It does vary slightly from time to time, but you'll find most of the time it's cheaper than you actually having to send your own second-class post if you went and took your own mail to the post office, for example. So it's a very good system. It's very useful to have that set up because it means that you can then use that functionality later if you want to. I mean, you can set up the system later if you want to, but I think when I come on to showing you how to create your own database, it would be advantageous for you to have the print system set up before you start creating your own database, and that'll become apparent a bit later on. So what we do is we click into set up the print system. You're then greeted with information that you have to fill in, and this information is published on the bottom of each letter that you send. Now you can choose to include it or not later. My advice is fill it in here for now. If you see a red asterisk, it means you have to fill it in, and then you can decide whether or not you want to include this information on letters going forward later on. So everything's always changeable and flexible throughout this system. What this is about is setting it up, getting it running, and then you can simply never go back to it again if you don't want to, or you can add things to it or delete or change later. But once it's set up, and it is a little bit complicated to go through this process, but it's worth investing the time in doing it right and doing it properly, because ultimately you can then just click and send letters without having to even go back to it if you don't want to. So name, company name if there is one. I've set up a company called, it's not a real company, it's called Oakwood Property. I'm going to call myself the director. I'm going to put in a number, my email address, I'm going to put in the address of the company name, and so on and so forth. I'm going to pause while I finish filling this form out. So I've completed filling that form out now. It's all very straightforward. And then the next point that I want to mention is that when you send a letter, you get a return address printed on the envelope. So it's going to, if you click generate from address, it's going to simply take the details you put in here to use as the return address. It says please don't make this any longer than 4 lines. It's the printing, the company we used to do the printing that stipulate that, and that's fine because there's the 4 lines. So if you find that you need to go on to 5 lines, then you can edit with this and get it onto 4 lines, but for now that works quite well. Signature that's going to go on the letters, you can either drag and drop a signature in from file, or you can simply sign away here a signature. Okay, keep it inside the box obviously, and that then sets up your letter footer, basically the signature block of your letter. This is what you've just created here. So we'll save that, and then it's asking you if you've got a letterhead template. So we're calling it, you'd be familiar with the term letterhead, so this is where you send into the system your letterhead template. So there's one I've created earlier, and I simply drag that into here. It has to be a Word document, by the way, so if you've got a PDF, ask whoever can, or you do it yourself, to create that into a Word document. You drop it in here, you then save that. The next section is about creating letter content. Now again, you can do this later, you can add to it later, you can change it later, you can create more than one letter later, but for now it's worth creating your first letter, which I will call my welcome letter. Okay, and then I'm going to write my content. At the moment it's just Latin text, but I'll cut and paste content in there, so hold on. Okay, so I've written my letter, and in this case it's a welcome letter. The scenario is I've identified a property or plot of land or what have you that I want to write to, and it's, please accept my apologies for writing you directly. We're interested in purchasing your property or your land or whatever. So a letter that you'll be familiar with, and that will then be saved. Now the letter template, your letterhead template, which I dragged in the step before, is then presented to you in this, it's called a sort of a help page to help you organise the content of your letter on top of your template. Now, again, you've only got to do this once, and once you've done it, it sets up for all future letters. So clearly the way that it's put that in there is too low, so I'm going to just, in the normal way you would do with a Word document, you just pull the content up, and I can go up a little bit higher than that. Now stay away from this space, I'll show you in a minute, but this is where the address of the recipient is printed. So whoever you're writing to, their address is printed here, so you obviously don't want to be putting stuff in there. Now that you can check by looking at the reserved area, and now you can see that everything's fitting nicely on my letterhead, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to get rid of the reserved area so I can go back to just a little bit more editing. Don't delete these tags. Whatever you do, do not delete these tags. What these tags do is they call from the system the data that you want to put in these tags. So the date, which is dynamically created on the date that you send these letters, or scheduled to send the letters. The plot name, which is taken from the database, the plot you're writing to. The salutation, which will either be Dear Sir, Madam if you don't know their name, but if you do know their name, it'll be Dear whoever you put in your database. The content of your letter is the one that you've just created, and the signing off of your letter. So if you know their name, it'll sign it off as as yours sincerely. If you don't, if you're writing to Dear Sir, Madam, it'll be yours faithfully. The signature that you've just created, your sender's name, your job title, your sender's phone number and email. Now again, you can get rid of these if you want to, and they won't appear on the letters. But for now, well, you can delete them if you wish. I prefer, if I'm sending a letter to someone, they've got my direct phone number and they've got my direct email. So I think it's a good thing to leave in. So once you're happy with that, now I personally prefer the letter to be this way around. So I'm writing to Dear whoever I'm writing to regarding the plot name, so I've just moved that down there, and then the letter content goes in here. Now I know from experience that having spaces in here is unnecessary, so I'm just going to bunch these up and then let's see what this looks like. So now I'm quite happy with that. It looks like it's a little bit low down in the page. I'll go up one more, but I don't want the address that gets printed to obscure the date. I like the date on my letters. And then we go ahead and don't forget we've got to scroll down here, and then we save. That gives you a preview of what you've just created. Now this does take about a minute or two, because it's actually rendering the exact image of what is going to be sent to your customers or to your prospective landowners. So just be patient, it takes a minute or two. But then once you've done it, again, it's one of these things that you don't have to keep doing. You can do it once when you set up the letters, and then you can ignore it and never have to do it again if you wish, or you can if you want to. So I'm just going to leave that to run. I'm going to pause the video while that finishes its work. Okay, so we've actually got now the rendered result. So this is the envelope that's going to be printed, and you'll notice that was the return address that I've requested it to go to, and this is my letterhead that I've created, and this is the content that I've created. Now, when you first log in, I should add that Harrods you're the first thing that we put in your database for you, just so when you set up your letter system, it's got something to write to. You won't be writing to Harrods, don't worry, we've blocked the letters from going out to Harrods, but it just enables you to set up this template for now. So I'm quite happy with that. I've got the date, I've got who, Dear Sir, Madam, because I don't know who I'm writing to at Harrods. I've got the content of the letter I've written. I've got my yours faithfully, because we don't know the person we're writing to, my name, my position, my email address, and my signature. And that is all sitting nicely within my template, so I can then just go ahead, I can close that off, and then I can say, yeah, I'm happy with that, thank you very much, and I've finished that process. Now, once you've finished that process, there's a whole new process, which is creating your letter content. So I'll probably make a separate video about this, because otherwise this video is going to get really long, but basically I'll just show you quickly what you've done. So you've created a letter, we've called it welcome letter. It's a default letter, so in other words I'm making that one the default letter. That's the one that's always going to be sent. When I click to send a letter, it'll make that a priority. And I'm going to, if I want to edit the letter, I can always edit it in here. Okay, so sorry, I've clicked on this little pencil edit thing here. and what this is telling me is this is the welcome letter. It's on John Smith's template, which is what I've created. I'm going to not discuss that one for now, but make sure that you click this, which is print enabled. So you're telling the system that this welcome letter is enabled to print. Okay, it won't print unless you've chosen a plot to send it to, but this needs to be enabled before letters are printed out. There's the content. So I'm going to save that because I've made this change here. So I'm going to save. Okay. Now you can always preview. You can always change letters. Hopefully I've made that quite clear. So I will do it here. Actually, I'm going to add another letter. Okay, just to demonstrate to you how and I'm going to call this one a 1 month reminder. So this is a letter. So imagine the welcome letter has been sent out, and then rather than them not having another letter, I'm going to schedule automatically them to have another letter sent to them in a month's time, which we call the 1 month reminder. So I've called it 1 month reminder. I'm going to then put some content in here, and I'm going to show you how to schedule a follow-up letter. I'll come back in 1 second. So here's my 1 month letter content. It basically says, you might remember I wrote to you recently. If you're still interested, please contact us whether you're interested or not, etc., etc. I mean, you can obviously write your own content in there. And we're going to print enable this letter. Don't forget to click that print enabled. Right, we're saving that. Then you'll see we've got a welcome letter and we've got a 1 month reminder. Now, I'm going to go back into the welcome letter, and I'm going to say that it does have a follow-on letter. Yes, it does. I want to send the 1 month reminder 30 days following the welcome letter, and then that will schedule and automatically print 30 days after the welcome letter is sent. You don't have to do anything. It'll just appear in your database, it'll appear in your letter queue, and it will automatically print this letter out. I'm going to save that, so it's print enabled, and this letter does have a follow-on letter. It's signalling here, and this is basically now creating a system. Now you can add a 3 month reminder, a 6 month reminder, a 12 month reminder, and you can keep adding letters here, and you can schedule follow-on rules for each letter. You can have one following in a week or a month or a year, whatever you want. But it means that if you've identified a property or a plot that you're interested in writing to, you can schedule letters, and they will keep getting letters until they pick up the phone and say, yes, please, we're interested in talking to you, or no, please stop writing to me. What we find is that timing is everything when it comes to doing property deals. So people often phone up and they say, oh, my children have just left university, or we're getting too old and the garden's too big for us, or we're selling our farm and we're interested now in a life change. So them having regular letters from us actually creates the opportunity to keep in the forefront of their mind. I'm sure that our persistence in some cases they might find frustrating, but we often get phone calls years after we've identified and written letters to plots by owners saying now is the right time. And if I hadn't have been sending them letters, they wouldn't have picked up the phone and phoned me. So this is creating future opportunities for you, for your business when you're trying to secure land. I'm going to stop the video there because it's gone on quite a long time, but I hope that's given you enough to help you feel confident in setting up your print system, setting up a couple of the first letters, and the next video I'm going to show you how to use your database, and that's why these letters are going to be really important when you go back to start creating your database. So look out for how to set up your database next video, and I look forward to talking you through that one. Thanks very much for listening. Bye bye.